To introduce our speaker, Kate Reekie. Kate is a consultant who is committed to advancing the circular economy, both at home and abroad. After 25 years managing international development programs, Kate completed graduate studies in sustainability at Harvard University and moved to federal policy work advancing plastic waste and pollution reduction in Canada. She also became active on zero waste initiatives in her Ottawa neighborhood and served as the circular economy lead for the nonprofit network Cafés, which is the Community Action for Environmental Sustainability. And she channeled the community's input into the city's now approved solid waste master plan. Friends, please welcome Kate Reekie. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh, great. So this does answer my question. My technical question was, will I be able to see the people who are online? So, well, thank you very much for the invitation. It's really special to be here with you. Such a smiling, happy crowd. And it's my first time here, and so but I've had the opportunity to meet a number of you just as arriving, and I feel right at home. So it's always fun for me to go anywhere and talk about my favorite topic, which is the circular economy. So thank you for being eager listeners. And then we do hope to have a conversation afterwards about anything you would like, any threads you would like to follow up on, and we can take it any way you want. I guess what I would like is maybe if we could hold questions or discussion until the end, and it looks like I'll be able to see online if anyone has their hands up, but please. For the conversation afterwards, people online just speak up because I think that'll be the best way. Actually, I'm just going to hide this actually. Okay, so imagine a world with no waste. Kind of hard to imagine, but that is really the essence of the circular economy. And this is what is my new raison d'etre, is to work towards this. And so this presentation is about how governments and businesses and individuals in community can all contribute towards making this happen. And so I thought, as far as an outline, I would just give a few words to introduce the circular economy, what it is and why it's important. Then talk about government's role as the enabler of circular economy. Then look at businesses and what businesses are doing and some of the very cool innovations that are happening to jumpstart the circular economy. And then bring it back home to individuals, what we can do in our households and what we can do in our communities to advance the circular economy. So does that sound okay?
Great.
Okay. Okay, so introducing the circular economy. We often describe the circular economy by describing what it isn't. So the circular economy is not the linear economy. The linear economy is what we're all living in now. We also call this the take, make, waste kind of economy, where we take resources from the earth, we make things out of it, and then we use them and they show up as waste. Not sustainable, I'm sure we can all agree. The circular economy, by contrast, keeps things in use for forever, in theory, by reusing, remaking, recycling. How many people, just out of curiosity, have heard of the circular economy? It's a it's not a new concept for everybody. Okay, good. So stop me if I'm being too basic, but I'll try to sort of hit the right level. So this here is actually Dame Ellen MacArthur, who is the founder of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. Ellen MacArthur Foundation is a thought leader on the circular economy and has been since 2010. I like it. Waste is only waste if we waste it. And there are many actual definitions floating about for what is the circular economy, but I like this one because it's very succinct. The circular economy is a system in which waste does not exist as such, but serves as food for the next cycle. So you can see there are three core principles of the circular economy: designing out waste and pollution. So that means designing for recyclability, for reusability, or for degradability. And if it doesn't do any of those things, then we shouldn't be making them. We shouldn't be making anything that is not reusable, recyclable, or biodegradable. The second principle is recirculating products and materials at their highest value. So we know what recirculating products and materials means in the economy. What does it mean at their highest value? Well, it means sort of everything has a value. So if you have a motor, for example, and it breaks down, you kind of have two choices. You can repair it and then bringing it back up to being a functional motor again. And that has a higher value than taking its component parts apart and recycling them, which has a lower value. So you always aim for the higher value. And regenerating nature, of course, regenerating nature by making sure, first of all, that the biological materials that we use go back into Mother Earth, and we give nature a chance to regenerate by not polluting it, and also by not stressing it unduly by taking virgin resources from it. This is the butterfly diagram. Has anyone seen this before? This is sort of the essential thing that all circular economists always talk about. And you have to use your imagination a little bit, but it does kind of look like a butterfly with the two wings. On the left-hand side is what we call the biological cycle. And the biological cycle is all about renewable materials. That would be things like food, that would be wood, wool and cotton, those kinds of things. And the purpose of that wing is to, at the end of its use, it recirculates by regenerating the earth. And then the earth is fortified and it goes into making more food, etc. On the right-hand side is what we call the technical cycle. And that is mostly what people think of when they think of the circular economy. It's about sharing, reducing, repairing, refurbishing, and all, a kind of ordering of all the different strategies to be circular. You notice that recycling is on the outer edge. That's because recycling is actually one of the least beneficial ways of recirculating materials, because by recycling, you can see the loop goes all the way back to the parts manufacturer and has to go through many steps. So it's the least efficient. The most efficient is just to reuse what we have, what exists already. Another way to describe the circular economy is through the zero waste hierarchy. And this hierarchy may look a little bit different from other hierarchies that you may have seen, a waste management hierarchy. This one, you can see there's a space between the rethink, reduce, and reuse. And that's because they're trying to emphasize the importance of these top three. These are really the most important ones. Recycling and compost, yes, as last resort. And the other difference is that this one puts incineration and waste to energy, the bottom one in red, below landfilling in terms of priority, and they call it unacceptable. And I believe that this is true. It is worse to incinerate than it is to landfill, and we'll get into that a little bit later on. Oops. A few other concepts. I won't go into all of these, but I did want to kind of to speak to two of these. These are all, there's so much words in the sustainability field. There's a lot of gobbledygook, and there's a lot of misunderstanding about the difference of different terms. Often circularity is put in the same breath as sustainability. But what exactly is the difference, right? So sustainability typically is referring to, you know, social, environmental, and economic sustainability, whereas circularity is really talking about material flows. So circularity leads to sustainability. However, circularity in recent iterations is moving more towards a much broader understanding. So the lines are blurring a little bit. I also wanted to talk a little bit about degrowth, because it's one of the central debates within the circular economy community. Mainstream circular economists will often say that growth can be decoupled from resource use. And that's kind of gobbledygook speak to mean that you can still have economic growth while using less resources. You don't have to use more and more resources in order to have more and more economic growth. They're saying they're two separate, they call it decoupling. But then there's another school of thought that says, even if that may be true to a certain extent, economic growth is unsustainable. And at this point in time, in fact, these people, the degrowth people, have been saying this since 1973, that there are limits to growth, and we actually need to degrow our economies. And that means, negative GDP growth rates. So anyway, just a little bit on that. I think we all have a basic understanding of why the circular economy would be good, for us all. Of course, we know the environmental reasons. It was even written in the invitation for tonight that it's a key driver of climate change. Often when we think about climate change, people often talk about the energy transition, and they say, okay, well, in order to stop climate change, we need to drive EVs, we need to electrify our homes, we need to electrify our industry, but rarely do people make the link between the stuff that we are consuming, that we're buying, and the food that we're eating, and the agriculture. But that latter actually accounts for 45% of our greenhouse gas emissions. It's all embedded in the stuff. So if I'm using this clicker, all the plastic that went into making this and all the processes to make it can be quantified in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. And when you add it all up, it's almost half of our global emissions. So it's very, very important to rein in our consumption. The other ones, well, we'll talk, natural resource depletion. Obviously, we're using more virgin resources. It will soon be depleted. Unsustainable waste levels. Well, we know that our landfills are filling up, especially in the developed countries like Canada. And there are fewer and fewer opportunities to export our waste to other countries. We know that China said, no way, we do not want your waste, and then other Southeast Asian countries shortly thereafter followed suit. And so more and more countries are having to say, we have to deal with our waste within our borders. Human health concerns. This isn't often thought of, but for example, microplastics. Our consumption of plastics, which is going up and up and up every year. We can talk about recycling until we're blue in the face, but if we're just recycling plastic that is leaching microplastics, which is, as we now know, found now in many, it's in the air, it's in the water, it's in our feces, it's in every cell in our body, including in the brain, which is the scariest of all. It's broken the blood-brain barrier, and there are now being found microplastics in the human brain. So even if the science is a little bit behind in determining definitively what chronic conditions humans are going to face, I'd be willing to give a bet that it ain't good. So that's human health and affordability. Well, we all talk about affordability. Life is very expensive these days, but how much of that life is stuff that we actually don't need? And I think that the circular economy, if it can lead to a vision where we don't need so many things, then I think that will ease the burden on affordability, in the sense that some of the things we think we need, we may not need. On to the next aspect, and this is about government and enabling policies, how governments can help. So there are many, many ways, but I've decided to focus on four policies that can really make a difference. Aligned here on the left-hand side, more or less with the waste hierarchy. So in order of priority, redesigning products. Well, one of the things that governments can do is to develop regulations on what they call eco-design of products. That means designing products, mandating that products are designed for reusability, that they can be taken apart, that they will have long lives. This is essential. We are not doing this yet in Canada. The European Union is a leader in this. Another very important part of these eco-design regulations in Europe is that they are mandating the use of digital product passports. And what that means is that each unique product that enters the European Union economy will have to have a kind of a digital twin that will, through an RFID or some sort of QR code or some way of accessing this digital file, that will have everything about this product. Its origin, its carbon emissions, its like embedded carbon emissions, its recyclability, use instructions, after use instructions, everything will be on this thing. And that's a key aspect. It's coming, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get this in Canada soon. The next one, to reduce the consumption of plastics, which is especially important because plastics is the production of plastics is expected to triple by 2060 if nothing is done. This is OECD's statistics. So what is really desperately needed is for countries to put caps on the production of plastics. Now, you may be aware with the Global Plastics Treaty negotiations recently that ended in failure. This was the clinching issue. This was the issue that countries couldn't agree on. Actually, most countries could agree on it. Over 100 countries could agree on it, but there was a few that didn't. And that meant that they couldn't move forward. But I think it's very important. And if you're getting Karen Wersig to come and speak, I know she will probably mention this, is that environmental defense is calling for countries like Canada who said, yes, we're in favor of a cap. Well, okay, even if the rest of the countries won't do it, let's do it here in Canada. The third item is right to repair. Has anyone heard of right to repair? Okay, sounds like you have some in-depth inside scoop on right to repair. Right to repair gives consumers the right to repair and access to repair their own products. And you may think, well, I already have the right to repair and who's stopping me? But when you think about how many things that you've owned that you couldn't repair, either it was too complicated, you couldn't get into it electronics-wise or something, and you ended up just throwing it out, that's because the companies have not been very, very transparent about how to fix their products. Because they have intellectual property in there, and they don't want you going into their products and fiddling with them. So in Canada, for example, we are working to amend our Copyright Act in order to bring in a right to repair. So this is something that we are working on, but we haven't quite got in place in Canada. And the fourth one, which is a support to recycling, is extended producer responsibility. Have you heard the term? Yeah. So it's something that we are we have just put in place in Ontario for packaging, for example. It's also for batteries and other things, but for packaging is the big one. And this means putting the financial responsibility and the operational responsibility for collecting and recycling and dealing with products at their end of use, and puts the responsibility in the hands of the producers. And it means that taxpayers no longer have to pay for the recycling of products, because these are products that are put on the market by companies. The idea is they should take responsibility for the waste that they've created. So that's that. And one thing that's really not helpful in terms of public policy is waste to energy incineration. I talked about this a little bit earlier. I won't say too much. There's many reasons, and they're all enumerated here, why waste to energy incineration is not something we want our governments to pursue. But basically, it's dirty. There are very, very toxic emissions associated with it. There's toxic ash, and it also disincentivizes recycling and reuse, because everything just gets burned anyway, and you need a minimum quantity. So it really goes against all of the circular economy principles. And I'm sure Karen will also speak to that. So on to private sector innovations. There are so many. I find this is one of the most exciting parts of the circular economy, and really arguably the private sector should be the driver of the circular economy of all of them. Government, individuals, I think it's really private sector driven in a lot of cases. But I've decided to just focus on a few, and because we don't have unlimited time, I'm only going to maybe bring up one example in each of these sectors: the packaging sector, the fashion, construction, electronics, and food. These are the sort of 5 key sectors that we talk about in the circular economy. So, how many of you have seen these True Earth laundry detergent tabs? All right, they're actually available in grocery stores now, and they're quite mainstream, but they're a nice Canadian invention if you're trying to avoid buying American these days. I really like this because it's really reimagining packaging. So gone are the days where you need to, in order to wash your laundry, you need to have like a plastic jug of a very heavy liquid that needs to be transported, and all of that entails a lot of greenhouse gas emissions. They've managed to dehydrate it and depackage it so that it's really just one cardboard envelope. It's brilliant. And this is the kind of innovation that I think we're going to see more of. In the fashion sector, one example that I'd like to highlight is upcycling of textile waste. And this can be even textile waste before it even leaves the shop floor. The edges, when they cut out the dress, well, what happens to the fabric on the side? So there are designers that are very creatively using that to make new clothes. So that's one that I'd like to highlight. In the construction sector, and this is very timely given Prime Minister Carney's announcement about stepping up housing construction, modular homes. So I'm very pleased to see that modular homes is going to be, is on the radar of policymakers here in Canada. Because the thing about modular homes, it's basically, as we say, designed for circularity. So it's designed in the first place to take it apart. You put it together, you can easily take each piece apart. If one part needs repairing, you can take it out, replace it. You can take it all apart and make another home somewhere else. This is exactly how we need to go. And that's not what we have right now. Right now, we have a situation where, the only really way to take apart a house is just to bulldoze it down like my neighbor did yesterday. In the electronics sector, I'd like to highlight the kind of smartphone design that is made to last. And this is a company called Fairphone that is based in the Netherlands. And it's so different from, my iPhone that is, manufactured obsolescence. But these guys have made a phone that is easy to take apart, easy to upgrade, and will last a very long time. In the food sector, what I'd like to talk about is industrial symbiosis as a means of circularity. And there is this very interesting place in Montreal called Centrale Agricole. If you have a chance to visit it, I would highly recommend it. I went on a tour there last June. What they do at Centrale Agricole, it's a cooperative of food producers and processors, and they, each one of them, they use as inputs to their process the outputs of one of their colleagues. So it works very well. So for example, one of the companies is, they produce insects for human consumption, good source of protein. So what do those insects eat? Well, they can eat the food waste that is created by one of the other companies who takes excess food from grocery stores and packs them in boxes to redistribute, but then there's some food that is not good enough for that, so then it goes to feed the insects. And then the insects poop, and then what does that poop go to? It goes to another company that makes kind of fertilizers. And they make the fertilizers, and then they use the fertilizers to fertilize their own, they have a garden on the roof, which is what you see in the picture there. So you can see circular economy at work. The last part is about behavioral change and what you and I and we can all do both in our homes and in our communities. How can we be agents of change? How can we facilitate the circular economy? So the zero waste movement, it was very, very popular a number of years ago, maybe less so now. I think we're in a period of backlash in general against many environmental things. But you know, zero waste is a scary term because obviously, I mean, I'm not zero waste. I try to reduce my waste, but I'm not zero waste. I don't think many people are. And I think we can just think of it as a step-by-step journey. Two of the sort of, I would say, important influencers in this movement. The first one is Bea Johnson, who you may remember hearing about this crazy woman who was able to take all of her family's waste for a year and fit it into this mason jar. I've always been very skeptical of this claim, but anyway, it was probably a publicity stunt and very effective one. And so she wrote this book called The Zero Waste Home, 2013, going way back now. But she has really she's considered the grandma of the zero waste movement. Then more recently, this guy named Robin Greenfield, and this is a kind of goofy guy. He decided to do this project, a 30-day project where he decided to live like the average American and just, buy all kinds of single-use things. And he wore on his body everything that he used instead of throwing it out. And then he used that as kind of a stunt and a way of talking to school kids in particular. So very, very dynamic influencers here. So within our own homes, what we can do, it's really back to the basics, the refuse, reduce, reuse, all the rest, and only if you can't do all those, then recycling and composting, depending on if it's biological or technical. And so I've sort of divided this into three different categories of different hacks, but I hope that in the discussion we can also add to this and, these are just my ideas. So I have three different categories. The first one is our stuff, like durable goods, all the stuff we like to buy. The second one is packaging and single-use waste, stuff that we use for a second and then throw out. And the third one is reducing food waste. So starting with the first one, and again, using the framework of the waste hierarchy, what can we refuse? Well, and you may disagree with me on some, I may be a little bit hardcore on some of these things, but we can, if we choose, refuse gifts that are material, that are packaged in a but we can say, please, if you're coming to my birthday party, I don't need any more gifts. Make me some cookies or something. Promotional materials. I think we've all gone to events or conferences where we get promotional materials and think, oh, it's cheaply made. It's not necessary. I never wanted it in the first place. Just refuse it. And then other ways of reducing, of course, avoid impulse purchases. I sometimes say, leave the decision making for a good week. If you're pondering whether to buy something, leave it for a week. Let it percolate. You might not need it in the first place. Resist the temptation to upgrade to the latest model. I just bought a used iPhone from someone, and I was surprised, that like my idea of a new iPhone is the 14. I came from the 8, and he was already buying the 17. And so it's all relative, but I think there's a large number of people that are always buying the latest one. Is it necessary? Buy things that are built to last. It's not always possible because they tend to be more expensive. But if you buy them secondhand, maybe you can get better quality things secondhand. And then reuse, borrowing from friends, neighbors, buy nothing groups, libraries instead of buying books. They even have things called library of things, which I don't think has come to Ottawa yet, but rent instead of buying. Do we always need to have that ladder that you use once a year? Maybe you can rent it from an online place, party related stuff. You can rent, you don't need to buy it. And buy secondhand where possible. That's clothes and just about everything is on Marketplace. Facebook Marketplace, I tell you, anything you think, you can find everything there. The next one is about packaging and packaging and single-use items in general. So what are the things that we might be able to refuse right off the bat? Snail mail. Okay, so this is where, go paperless, like, and every time I get a letter in the mailbox, I go right up and I write them a letter and say, please take me off your list. Shopping bags, and that includes paper shopping bags. I'm talking single-use ones. Produce wrapped in plastic or mesh. That's harder, but I think, at least in my experience, pretty much all of the grocery stores do offer unpackaged options for most things. If you look, it might be more expensive though. That is, so this is a dialogue you want to have with the shopkeeper. This is what we want to see in our grocery stores. How can we reduce? Well, we can shop at zero waste grocery stores. And in Ottawa, we really just have one. And we should all be supporting it on Main Street called the New Grocery. There are other options, for example, Bulk Barn, which will let you bring your containers in. So you're not using their plastic bags, which you don't want to do. What else can we do? We can reduce our e-commerce purchases. I think the local merchants here would thank you for buying local and avoiding e-commerce wherever possible. Every time I buy something e-commerce, it comes with so much packaging, it's unnecessary. Use a soda stream machine. This in and of itself can get rid of many plastic bottles of whether it's juice or like fizzy water, pop. If you use a soda stream machine, you're always reusing the same bottle. And bring in your reusable containers for restaurant takeout instead of doing the easy thing, which is just to take the takeout tray. Okay, so a few other things. Bringing back containers to vendors for reuse. I always bring back my fruit baskets, my egg cartons, that kind of thing. And you may not be aware that there's a service called Earth Hub, and this is a residential reuse and recycling collection service, and they will actually come to your door. And there's a whole list of different things that are not taken by the Blue Box that they will take for a monthly fee. And so this is a young entrepreneur that is getting started and it's providing a very excellent service. And the third one is minimizing food waste. What can we refuse? Well, this actually won't, the junk food and sugary sodas, I think, well, that won't minimize your waste at all. It'll just make you healthier and arguably richer. But anyway, what can you reduce? Well, how can you reduce? You can plan your meals and limit the amount of food you buy based on that meal plan. Actively managing your fridge the food waste people talk about this thing called first in, first out. And what they like to say is that whatever you put in the fridge first, you should eat first, obviously, so that it doesn't stay there and get ruined. Getting creative with leftovers, always where the leftovers of last night can become creatively made into something else, just like the circular economy for the following day. The freezer is your friend. You could freeze anything. Keeping veggie peels to then, keep them in the freezer, and then when you got enough, you can boil them up and make it into a soup stock. I don't think anyone needs to be buying soup stock in the store these days, because you've got all the ingredients there. And then there's great recipes that I've encountered for things like stale bread and sour milk and stuff like that. So nothing should really be thrown down your sink or it put into your compost bin without having been reused before. So those are 3 things that you can do within your household, but beyond your household, how do we affect positive change in our communities and in our world ultimately? And this comes down to what has been called handprint. Is anyone familiar with this idea of the handprint? It's like, we've always heard about footprint, our carbon footprint, our waste footprint. We are such terrible people because we have such an imprint on the earth, and maybe we just should cease to exist because we have such a negative impact on the earth. But the counterbalance to that is the handprint, to say, well, okay, yes, all of us are using the earth's resources and the earth's energy, and yeah, it has a footprint. But we can counterbalance that many times over through the multiplier effect, through the handprint. And that is, how do you influence others? How do you get other people to change their ways? How do you advocate for policy? So these are some of the ways, talking to businesses whenever in your neighborhood, saying, oh, it's interesting that you're using plastic bags. Is there any way on that? This kind of very, very soft but convincing reflection on our waste use. Getting together with friends in your neighborhood to say, is there any way we don't all need to buy cars, that we could share our car, or we could share our ladder that we only use once a year, or a wheelbarrow, or these kinds of things.
Then I can borrow yours, no problem.
Yeah. You can use the buy nothing group for that as well. And I've used that for crutches as well. These are the kinds of things you only use once in a while. Organizing a swap or a clothing swap. So I was just at a swap last week, and it was just so excellent. People brought in things that they didn't need, and other people came and took them. It was very simple but very effective. And then, of course, advocacy. That has a great big handprint if it works, because it has many multipliers. So that's about it for me. So thank you very much for your attention. And I know it was a lot to cover, but hopefully this will engender some thoughts and some. I know you may disagree vehemently with me on many things, so or maybe not. But welcome the questions and the discussion. And for the people online, I'm going to now just get it so that I can actually see you guys. There we go. Okay. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi, Ida. So feel free, you online to unmute yourself if you would like to speak, or if any of you would like to have any comments or questions? Sure.
I was thinking when you were talking about lawnmowers and like how it takes one lawnmower to really mow a whole entire block of lawns.
Mhm.
Yeah, everybody's, riding John Deere lawnmower to mow their quarter acre out the verbs, right?
Yeah.
And I was thinking, okay, what you have to do to the mindset to say, why don't we just put this lawnmower in the middle and put it on a schedule and share it?
Mhm.
And then I'm thinking, but wait a minute, why are we mowing our lawns?
You're a deep thinker. Go to the rooftop.
And then what do we have to do to change the mindset? It's like, we're losing insects, we need pollinators,
Yeah.
we're mowing your lawn, poisoning and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's bad.
Yeah.
So, I'm just like, the things that we're doing, the values that we have that cause us to do things like not share our lawnmowers are built on top of these other values that are also not sustainable.
Right.
Which themselves may be built on top of another layer.
Yeah, many layers, yeah.
How do you penetrate all of those, any of those, or all of those layers in terms of not just, changing behaviors like people like to recycle their plastic, makes them feel good and such as that, but they haven't changed their mindset in terms of they're just doing that because someone told them it was a good thing to do and you want to be a good person.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't see what's wrong with the basic parameters under which their values are built. But how do you begin to make changes at that level?
Yeah. Yeah, in a way, in that example that you give, the circular economy as a framework would be a little bit limiting, right? Because it would be talking about how can we share the resource without looking more broadly at the sustainability of the lawns, right?
And if you do share the lawnmowers, people who make lawnmowers are going to get laid off. And, that's.
They can make something else. But I mean, the parameters of the discussion are around sharing and efficiency in using resources. So yes, it would already be a major benefit if all of the neighbors could have a schedule, as you say, and share that. I know my brother-in-law is a farmer and that's what they do on farms. Like, not everybody has their own tractor. They share their tractors. And because there's a very specific timing involved, like they have to be very clear on who's using it when. But yeah, I mean, you're right, there are many levels to it, and maybe in doing so, those discussions with your neighbors could lead to a discussion on what are we doing with all of these large expanses of grass, which are kind of dead zones for pollinators, and in this situation where we need as many pollinators as we can, maybe there's an opportunity to start that discussion. Yes.
Just a small observation regarding the anxiety and mental conditions.
Yes.
Because there is a prayer by the Blessed Beauty. It's in Arabic. I can send you later on. So, the source of anxiety and mental condition is pollutions and contamination. So in this prayer, Blessed Beauty is saying that we have to purify not only the body from this contamination, also the soul and our spirit. So one of the state of emergency we have now on the planet, it's very clear because the Quran also says the water is, everything is alive from the water.
Yes.
So the water is source of life, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So if we have a state of emergency on this planet, we do not have simply clean, pure, healthy water to drink for drinking purposes.
Yeah.
So the contamination, acid rain, emissions, drugs, medication, contraceptives, everything is in the water generally,
Yeah.
And then So we can have two kind of like the solution, one is the short term and the long term. Long term, as you said, all of these things, we agree with you, but it takes time. So the short term solution is that we need pure, clean, healthy water for drinking. Because it is to my, understanding or experience, it is like a healing, it is like a healing, like a medicine for everything. Correct?
Correct.
I've felt it. It is very simple, we don't have it. Everything they are selling is fraud, and if you test it, there is a lot of things inside.
Including microplastics.
Yeah, so this is the short-term solution, and we need the pure, and the cost of the water right now, the pure clean water is more than the oil, more than energy, more than anything else if you want to buy. It's inaccessible to people. That's why we have so many mental conditions and diseases that are going on. Because it just flushes out.
The anxiety over resources?
No, anxiety, the tablet of the prayer of Baha'u'llah, he said about anxiety, he says clean the body, from all the elements and condemnation. It's a source of anxiety and mental disease. Also the soul, soul is more important than the body, of course. You have to clean the mind and also the or spirit from the contamination of the environment, which is a spiritual condition. The spiritual condition, of course, is more important than the physical condition. But if you are interested, everybody is interested in the physical condition, okay. We don't even have the physical condition for health, which is the pure clean water and all the contamination, everything's inside our bodies, Everything. Yeah. It's very simple. Because I'm experiencing this myself, I'm telling you, because I'm experiencing it every day like this.
Yeah.
Myself.
Very true.
Yes. So it's a case history, yeah.
Very true. Yeah. Yes.
Ida Wara online.
Oh, hi. Yes, speak up, Ida.
Yeah, hi everybody. Hi, Katie.
Hi.
Yeah, I was thinking about your, that growth, degrowth concepts, and I think it is the most difficult mindset, the challenge to poke a little hole in is that the growth mentality. It is, we humans have created this paradigm, okay? We weren't born with it as humans. So at some point in time, we developed this mentality that we have to grow the economy. And now it's part of our thinking, and nobody believes that any other model is possible. So I feel we environmentalists, thinkers, anybody who cares about this planet it's an invitation of every one of us channeling our minds to see how we can change this mindset, because it's very, very ingrained. It's at the root of our overconsumption, of waste, all the ills you spoke about. It's not a real question. It's an invitation to reflect.
No. Yeah, I welcome others' perspectives on this, but I agree with you, Ida, in the sense of I feel very strongly that we need to degrow, basically, and that, when the economists talk, they talk as if it's like the most terrible thing when we've had 2 quarters of consecutive negative growth, and that the world is going to come to an end.
Yes.
No, the world is not going to come to an end. And I think it's very important when you think about, it's just so embedded in all of the discourse, and when even the circular economy, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation that I spoke to earlier, they're kind of like the thought leaders in mainstream circular economy, and they've been very, 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 very successful in getting on board all of the big major brands, you know, like the Nestle's of the world, the Coca-Colas of this world, like they have managed to bring them in, but at the expense of saying very brave things like we need to degrow. Like, so that's why they do this whole song and dance about the decoupling, you know, and like, oh yeah, you can still have your growth, but it'll just be growth in another way. So like instead of, you know, if the lawnmower people get laid off, well, maybe they can get a job in repairing lawnmowers, you know, like,
They're getting used to
so, anyway, yeah, I don't know, I welcome your views on that, yeah.
I had the good fortune of meeting a Vancouverite about 4 days ago, and she kind of really opened my eyes. She lives on the harborfront,
Yes.
and you know, like Vancouver has been up in the best cities in the world for decades now.
Yeah.
It's the top #1 in the first 10. And she was telling me that being on the harbor, it is immaculate. No matter what time of day, it is immaculate. And she was telling me that in her apartment building, she has to go down to do her recycling, but her recycling is visited by Big Brother because there are cameras and they know which apartment, what unit you're in, and they see on camera where you're putting your recyclables. If you do a mistake, they know you've done a mistake, you will get a fine. I say, you're kidding me. No, she says, no, I'll get a $200 fine.
Huh, interesting.
So the mindset is being set to cleanliness as an obligation. And she says she's into having to walk down the boardwalk every day. She's looking at losing weight, and she says, never is there a piece of garbage. And I say, how can that be? There's not even she says there's not even any garbage bins. And she says it's because people have come to understand that they're being watched and they dare not do anything to spoil the environment. And she tells me that even when she is in a kind of platonic relationship, they are drones that come to her 8 and 9, like she's on the 9th floor of her apartment building, and the companion is taping her and making good on what he's doing the same way. So they're being watched so closely that they dare not pollute. I'm saying, what a concept, but they don't. And she says it doesn't matter what time of day. And she says even for the fact that there are encampments nearby, and there are accidents being held by being biological beings, and the city people, before the dawn breaks, they clean it up. So the people coming out of their buildings, going to work, they see nothing of it. And it's immaculate. I'm saying, okay, that's the mindset. They change the behavior.
Interesting. It sounds to me like you're suggesting there's some trade-offs involved in terms of privacy or, you know, individual rights, but at the same time, it seems to be having an effect.
Exactly. And they're saying, hey, everybody knows that they're having problems, but everybody is being watched and knows what their problems are, and it's being cleaned up.
Isn't that interesting? I had never heard that about Vancouver, but it harkens back, it reminds me of when I was an English teacher many moons ago, and we had this textbook in Japan, and it was talking about Singapore. And the textbook said, it talked about how you get fined a very high amount just for putting gum on the ground. And the line was, Singapore, it's a fine city. I'll always remember that.
Just a quick question regarding the growth.
Yes.
Have you noticed that recently there was some Mother Nature, he did something about the growth? Sorry about that.
Mother Nature did
No,
something.
I think he had his hand
Oh.
up.
Oh, sorry, yeah, maybe because you haven't spoken yet.
Cheyenne, and then Stephen hasn't spoken either.
Okay, and I haven't been paying attention to online, just if you just wanna say something, just say it. So, okay, so would you like to go and then Stephen?
Sure.
Okay.
So one question I've kind of seen them happen is in terms of recyclability,
Yeah.
how do you foresee balancing the trade-off of like ethically sourced materials when it comes to recycling? Because, for example, minerals like gold and tungsten can be mined using like militias in Africa where it's unethical, or genes can be made using slave labor.
Mm-hmm.
Then when you grab them all, sell them wholesale and kind of recycle or reuse them, as a consumer, you don't know, like, where did it come from? It's just a blend of different sources, so what are you seeing for that?
Well, that's where the digital product passports come in the future that will be coming to us soon, because that will have all kinds of information. It's not really clear whether I think sustainable sourcing, like if there's like a fair trade label or something that is, different certifications, anti-slave labor or different certifications that exist, that would be part of the digital product passport. So anyone, but, okay, there's two things. There's the product passports and then there's material passports. And so the material passport, even when it gets recycled, will then in the new form maintain that information. Like you'll be able to tell, even in a recycled version of it, its predecessors. It's so, but it's, we have to keep remembering where things came from. And this is one of the good things that the circular economy is more and more taking an interest in social issues as well. Like sustainable sourcing, because it's always looked at in the framework of the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. And so not only do we have the sort of view of what is circularity, but it's within another umbrella, which is sustainability, which includes sustainable sourcing, human rights, all of the things that you're talking about. So it's a good question, yeah. Did you want to say something?
My mind's going off in different directions, but
Oh, that's okay.
certainly the behavioral part of it is the main thing I think that has to change. And but we have very deep holes that we've dug ourselves into. We're bombarded by advertisements for things we don't need at all.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people go out and buy them.
Yep.
The easy route of calling up Amazon and having them ship something off.
Yeah.
But then there's all tons of packaging and so on. But the corporate end is very important, and it's so based on only money, nothing else, or money or power, and based on that, and usually the money only goes to a few people, and to change that system is very, very difficult. But it needs to happen, and I guess I think it really has to probably start because we make changes at the lower end. And I realized just when you were listening to your pyramid of things, I do a lot at the low end there, the recycling, the composting, and even there I have a setback with the composting because there was some deep construction being done nearby. Rats came out of the ground, and so they'd get into the compost, and that was causing great problems in the neighborhood, these rats. And I used to put like at least 80% plus of all waste was stuff going in the compost
Oh, that's good.
for a few years, and I didn't do it at all this year because of the rat problem.
The rats can get even in those locked,
I even
those rat-proof lots.
emptied it out, filled the bottom with rocks, like
Oh.
big rocks that
Yeah.
can't be moved, and
Yeah.
but apparently they can get in the hole like this big.
Oh my
you know, down the-
gosh.
And they did. And so I haven't been able to resolve that problem yet, so I hope to by next year. But I've solved Bill's problem. My wife and I, that we see like lawn grass as a weed. We have none
Oh, yeah.
in our front garden or our back garden, which is quite large.
Good, yes.
Have you noticed a massive degrowth process by the mother nature recently?
In what sense? In what sense?
Degrowth, very massive. It was,
Massive degrowth by Mother Nature.
yeah,
Uh,
COVID-19.
what do you mean? Sorry?
COVID-19 was.
COVID-19. Ah, yes, yes.
Massive degrowth.
Yes, 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 yes.
So we're getting 25% now or so.
But then after COVID-19, there was rapid growth.
No, I don't think so. It's still they're suffering. It's still economies are suffering. This is
Yeah.
my opinion because it happened
Uh-huh.
and all the economy just crashed. It was a big degrowth process. Supply chain, the car, even cannot order the cars now. If you have money, you cannot buy.
Yeah.
Everything.
But now you can.
Huh?
Now you can.
It was a
It's all
big
back.
degrowth by the mother nature. I don't know. It was a plan or whatever it was, but that was degrowth.
Thank you, Sharon. I think we have time for one more,
Okay,
question
sure,
or
yeah.
comment.
I was thinking a bit about the reality that there are a lot of people on the planet who like don't have enough resources. And I was thinking that if we waste less, then there would be more resources in general for everyone to enjoy, to have.
Good point.
From top of the world.
That's a good point. Yeah, very much so. I mean, we have finite resources on the planet. And like 80% of the consumption is happening in countries like Canada and the United States. Not so much Senegal, Burkina Faso, last time I checked. So, we here in the developed world bear a disproportionate amount of responsibility for the degradation of nature and the overuse of our resources. So the more that we can curtail that, the more there is for everyone. But then it's not necessarily true that even if you do that, that there will be more then there's geopolitics involved in terms of carving up the resources that do exist, that are left. So it's not a given that then it would end up benefiting those who are not benefiting now, but at least they would be there in theory if there was a kinder and gentler world order than we have right now.
Thank you. I think that's really a good note to end on because we've come back to talking about, what's really spiritual principles, principles of justice, and equality and what's right and what's fair. And these are things that I think we all understand, but somehow we don't seem to be globally acting on. But that's where we need to shift.
Yeah.
In terms of our behaviors is the mindset of what's right, what's fair, moderation, sharing, generosity, health, all these good things that you mentioned in your presentation too, are what can shift things. And, generally to change behavior, you use either reward or punishment. How the carrot or the stick, so to speak. So, I think we saw some examples of that as well in there in terms of, how governments would put in caps or fines, or
Incentivizing or
Exactly,
disincentivizing.
these are kind of our levers.
Yeah.
But it gets down to, well, who do we want to be as individuals and as a community? In order to know that we're fulfilling our purposes here on Earth.
Right.
And living a good life. That kind of goes back to the fountain that we saw
The
at the
fountain,
beginning.
yeah.
It's
circular.
Well,
thank you very much.
I would like to offer you, I'm afraid it's a printed media, so don't have it out. But as a token of appreciation, One Planet, One Habitation, which is a statement from the Baha'i international community, and it offers possible solutions to many of the things that we're talking about.
I was looking at it just before we started, and I was thinking, okay, these people have done some homework. On world's problems.
Work with the United Nations, and they do try to influence.
What is the data
Other
population?
countries.
It is new or old?
It's
Couple of years?
available online as
Yeah.
well.
mean, it's
And
not-
Aaron, maybe you could share a link.
When you get,
2022.
Yeah,
That's-
not very old.
when you get done with it, you could give it to somebody else for.
That's right.
Yeah.
You could put it for grinding and installation.
Oh, I'll give it to someone else. Which is all higher volume, higher volume. Thank you very much. I really appreciate being here, and I thought it was a good discussion. Yeah.
Thank you, that was. So I'd like to announce 2 upcoming events before we move on to the next part of our program, which is going to be refreshments and social. So we have a really unique opportunity coming up. We are warmly invited to participate in a dialogue that will contribute to the climate COP30 that's coming up in Brazil this November.
Is it COP?
COP.
Yeah.
Mhm. Next Saturday on September 27th at 7 p.m., we're going to be hosting an online conversation to bring ethical perspectives to COP30. And we do have a flyer, and Aaron's showing it online, but we have some here on the back table. And it has the Zoom link. And so what is happening, is that, the Brazilian government asked 5 questions about climate action, and all over the world, people are being asked to participate in conversations, then gather the key points, and then submit them to the Global Ethical Stocktake Circle. And then those will be presented to the national leaders at COP30 in November. So we've decided to host such a dialogue online for people to be able to think through some of these questions. Things like, if we know everything that's happening with climate change and we know the negative impacts, then why are we falling behind, if you will, in dealing with them? Pretty interesting discussion, and I hope that you'll join us and participate.
Is it only online or you have?
It is going to be online.
Only online.
Only online. And secondly, our next environmental cafe 613 will be on Tuesday, October 28th. Alan Wong, president of Veg Ottawa, will be joining us to present Eating for the Environment, How Our Food Systems Affect the World We Live in. And we have the information online, and also we have some flyers here. And we'll be sending out emails to those folks that have signed up with their email address. And Alan says your plate is more powerful than you think. So again, this comes back to us as individuals. Find out how everyday food decisions can
But the
support
coffee is
a healthier planet.
water. Like this.
Finally, I'd like to express our gratitude to Kate and to Ben and to all the members of the Ottawa Environment Forum who worked together to host Environment Café 613 evenings. And a special thanks to Aaron and Ben and Shu for facilitating a smooth hybrid meeting tonight. And we appreciate all of you for attending and participating in the conversation this evening.
Sure. Just one more announcement. It comes from the cafes and it's going to her subject of circular economy. And it's happening at Windsor Park on October the 4th between 12 and 4.
Yeah.
And they're going to take in all of the electronics that you don't, or have been broken and you don't know what to do. The reuse, the batteries that you have stored up and you don't know what to do with.
There's a whole
Yeah.
long list of
Yeah.
things that will be accepted.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and this is amazing, because I mean, I'm stuck on
So what-
stuff that I wanna go, you go to the park.
I'm helping to
It's
organize
right-
that.
Oh, you see,
Yeah.
and it's right across from Riverdale, isn't it?
Yeah.
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 And it's
So,
from 12 to 4.
Maybe if someone can send the link to me,
Yes.
the information, then I can share that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
This one is only online, correct? This one. Only,
The 613, we're hoping that the next one will also be hybrid at
yeah,
the center and online.
because I don't like online, so I hate it. It was part of mobility growth. So like, the growth is phenomenal.
About an environmental fair going on in October, October 25th.
We're planning on it, we're just a little bit sort of back. I'm communicating that, but thank you for bringing it up. We are planning on having an environmental fair October 25th. Probably here at the center, because we can be outdoors, indoors, rain or shine. So we'll certainly be announcing that. And what we do in the environment fairs is we invite various organizations and groups to have tables and share their information and what they're working on, circulate petitions, address any questions that people have. So it's always very valuable resources. So anyway, for those here at the center, enjoy refreshments and each other's company. For those online, thank you very much for joining us this evening and wish everybody a good evening. See you soon.